Haven's talking about. As you know, New Haven is talking about school custodians and the budget crisis that the city's facing. It's been estimated that, like cities across the country, New Haven is feeling squeezed, that we could have a structural deficit of as high as $50 million a year under present conditions. And one proposal on the table this year is to privatize school custodians, to have their jobs be turned over to a private contractor, that the city has estimated, if I have it right, that instead of spending $15 million a year to clean the schools, we could spend $8 million. Dorothy Greene, you're a custodian at Wilbur Cross High School. How do you feel when you hear about this proposal?
I feel really devastated. I don't feel we're given proper consideration for the contribution that we're making to the schools, and I really don't believe I know they have their statistics, but I really believe they're going to save the money.
Well, before we get to statistics, you make $38,000 a year as a custodian.
Yeah.
What are you afraid is going to happen to you if a private company comes in and becomes your boss?
I'm afraid I'm going to be one of those people that read on the paper that lose their home, that may have to get public assistance or go on welfare and not have any health care.
And why would that happen?
Right now, my husband has not worked in 3 years. He has a part-time job, so that's devastating. We own a home in New Haven for 19 years.
But I mean, are you worried you're going to have fewer hours, or are you going to get paid less? What are you worried is going to happen?
I'm worried that we're not going to have a job at all.
Mayor DeStefano, what do you think when you hear Dorothy Greene say that?
Dorothy and I know each other from another time. It's good to see her. It's good to be here with Rob and with you. I guess I roll back to where this starts, which is taxpayers in New Haven pay the second highest effective tax rate in the state of Connecticut. There's no one here that thinks their taxes are low. And we've increased taxes in 2 out of the last 3 years. So there are a lot of folks who are trying to hold on to their homes and are dealing with the prospect of increased taxes in the city. And the second part of this is the city does a lot of things that a lot of other places don't do. Homeless shelters, services for people re-entering the community from a host of services that deal with populations in need, and it drives up the cost of our budget. And the real issue we're facing is how do you continue to provide services and not starve people out with taxes. And the not good way we've been balancing the budget the last couple of years is by using things called one-time revenues. We're selling this or selling that. It's like taking money out of your savings account in order to make ends meet, and it's just not sustainable.
So you're trying to cut costs over long term?
Well, we're trying to do a couple things. One, if we can do something for less money, we should try to do it. If there's some things we can stop doing them. I think doing things that a lot of families are doing, which is making choices, and at the same time preserving the things that are most important in the city, public education of our kids, reducing the achievement gap, cutting the dropout rate in half, seeing more kids have a chance to go on to college, compete successfully, and do that. And I think that's what a lot of cities and states across America do.
So if we try to save some money by privatizing custodians, should a custodian like Dorothy Greene worry she'll make less money? Is that going to happen to her?
Well, it's already happening in the workforce. We laid off 82 people a month ago, and I think there's a relatively reasonable prospect. I know the Board of Ed will probably have 60 to 70 layoffs this summer as the superintendent manages his budget to a flat number for the 3rd year in a row. Every city agency in next year's budget, except for Board of Ed, which is flat funded, is getting less money. So I think the city workforce, like private sector, and like a lot of families are seeing that. But go back to what this is fundamentally, it's how do you run the place with money you don't have? And I think whether you're a city or the state of Connecticut, Governor Roy now, or a family, that's the kind of issue people are dealing with.
Rob Montuori, you've been a custodian through a whole bunch of schools in the city. You're also the head of the union for custodians. Now, you just heard the mayor say we don't have as much money. We got to do things differently. We got to spend what we have. So he says we got to do things differently. One argument for privatizing the custodians is that the rules change so they can spend their money better. For instance, I think we've talked about this. If a custodian is done in one building be able to send them to another building to clean. Do you think that that's a fair way to save money, and do you think that's what this proposal is about?
Absolutely, it's a fair way to save money. It's called efficiency. And as we compare with the private sector, those are efficiencies that should be achieved and should have already been achieved.
Now, you guys are in negotiations with the custodians in the city. The city wants to privatize. You guys don't like that idea. They want to change some rules. Where have you been on some of those rules?
If they're going to make efficiencies and we're going to save employment for my people, absolutely. I have no issue with it.
So is the big issue here, Mayor, to pay people less than they're making because there's just not enough money? Or is the real issue to change the rules so you can be more efficient, or is it both?
In fairness to Rob's points, we've had discussions, I'm not going to negotiate here, but we've had discussions about healthcare, pension, salary, and work rules. And the union is actually come up with, been responsive, I think, in a lot of respects, to the Board of Ed's concerns about work rules. So I do want to acknowledge that. What it rolls back to is this, and this isn't just a custodian's issue. This is a 4,500 workforce issue, which is that 10 years ago, pension and health care was 12% of our budget, $44 million. Now it's 22% of our budget, or $105 million. And I call it the Pac-Man of the city budget. Now, frankly, some unions consume more in pensions than this bargaining unit does, police and fire. The average police retiree last year was 48 years old on a $78,000 pension. The average retiree out of this unit was something like age 55, a $36,000 pension on something
Could
like
we
that.
afford to pay a $36,000 pension to a custodian?
Well, the issue is how long they work. I mean, if you work 35 years as opposed to 20 years, it's a different answer. I think the answer, though, is sort of this. This is just not a custodian's issue. There needs to be a reset of pension and health care costs across the city, more reflecting market rates. And inevitably, there's no avoiding this. I mean, this is not going to go away because this cost is huge. It's something that's going to face the city. There's no appetite anywhere to increase taxes in the city. And here's my big concern. My big concern actually has to do with the governor's budget, because the governor's budget right now flat funds us, holds our funding constant, which is better than what we had seen over the last 3 years, where each year it had gone down. They're asking state employees for $1 billion, which I think, from what I understand, is a pretty healthy expectation, much more than what we would hope to accomplish. And if they don't get that, they're going to need to make that up somewhere. And, I mean, we're sitting here flat funded, and I think we become a target for that. And so this doesn't end with this unit. I mean, this is a long-term, as you said at the outset, structural problem.
Dorothy Greene, so you're listening to the mayor say this. You also own a home, as you mentioned.
Yes.
So on the one hand, you have a job you're worried about.
Yes.
On the other hand, you have a home you want to keep.
Yes.
What do you think when you hear the mayor say, we can't tax you anymore?
Given in our community, we're there with the community efforts, community services, so it's almost like we don't matter anymore. We're such a,
I want to follow up on that question. Because one thing, you always hear these debates where people say, on the one hand, I just can't pay more taxes, government can't do what it does. On the other hand, I care about the person losing a job. I think maybe people care about everybody that way. One question has been tough choices. So one statement officials have made is that we have to make a choice. Are we going to make sure we have enough teachers in the school, or are we just not going to have as many custodians? We're going to privatize that out and give them fewer hours. What if you have to make that choice? What would you make that choice if someone both had a job and had a parent with kids in the school?
I think the choices should be done equitably. Again, we do need to have sufficient amount of teachers, but we do need to have sufficient amount of custodians to keep those schools clean. One can't operate without the other, so we've got to find a way where they both can work together, where it's more equitable, where you're not asking more out of us. We're not a large union, but
you have 176 people to clean the schools.
Yeah.
So what she raises a good question about equity, but let's look at the environment we're in. So we say we treat stormwater here in the city. It's the stuff that comes off your roof or your parking lots into a drink. And that's right now paid by people who pay property taxes, not by people who have, all the people have parking lots. So for instance, there's a large university here, and there's several large universities on parking lots, and we want to charge a fee, take that out of the general fund. Charge a fee so that the people who are consuming the service will pay for it, and we budgeted $3 million savings in next year's budget. I can't get a majority in the legislative body right now to support this idea, and the budget is based on that kind of idea. And I think what's happening is people are so anxious, people are so nervous about what's happening. It's hard to get people to make choices to do anything, and the cost of no choices. I'll tell you what the cost of no choices will be. The cost of no choices will be me having to do what I'm obligated to do, which is to balance the budget, with only the very blunt instrument that I have fully at my discretion, which is layoffs for services that people basically want. I mean, there's not a service in the city that people don't want. And I started at the beginning, is we provide a ton of services that people want, and we'll be providing less. And so in a way, and I don't think this is so different than what you see happening in other places right now, people are having a hard time arriving at what's equitable, what's
well, the union supported a study that came out. They said the way you're going to save the money by going to privatization of custodians is that instead of making an average of $20 an hour, a custodian will only make $12 an hour and will get fewer hours so they no longer have benefits. Was that accurate?
Parts of it are. I mean, parts of it are not. Part of a wide variety of range rates. But the point is, so here's the choice. If people won't increase taxes, if they won't pass stormwater, if they don't want their senior centers or libraries closed, if they don't want to close schools, firehouses. I had a proposal to take an engine out of service and replace it with two emergency medical response units. No loss of jobs, switch of units. It allows us to increase efficiency. Well, people wouldn't let go of that engine, even though there's what we call a tactical unit right next to it that does the same thing. It's like, no, 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 no. So is there a savings in part driven by wage scale? Sure. I mean, that's in part. And just one other point. This is not a new issue to the city because, in point of fact, with the exception of the schools, all of the buildings, City Hall, the libraries, the parks buildings, the police buildings, firehouse, are cleaned by contracted services. However, all this said, you know, is finances part of what's motivating this? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's what's motivating everything that's happening in a lot of public services today.
So, Rob, following up on that, Rob, our readers have been all over this issue. Some agree with you, some agree with City Hall. I want to read you something that a commenter named O'Reilly wrote. Following up on what the mayor was saying about it will mean some people will make $12 an hour instead of 20, and you'll get fewer hours. For real, wrote, this is custodial work. It's not rocket science. Mopping floors, wiping blackboards, emptying trash is unskilled labor. Here's what he wrote down. Minimum wage or a little above is probably what these people would be making everywhere else. Taxpayers are subsidizing inflated wages. Why do I have to pay for the average custodian to make $21? If that is your profession, sorry, there's going to be a limit to what kind of salary you command because market forces dictate that. How do you feel, you guys, when you hear that?
Well, I feel just it is exactly what it says. You go to these privatized, they believe that you deserve $12.50 an hour, and you become a worker like in Walmart. And that's how they value.
Are you a worker like Walmart?
No, and it's not unskilled. You need to know how to handle chemicals. You need to get the health standards, the safety standards. We're using a lot of things. I think people are under the impression that we just go in and flush a toilet or something like that, and that's require a lot of skills, good judgment skills, being able to multitask, because every day we go into school, there's something different presented to us, and we have to, have the knowledge or the understanding of how to resolve that. And I don't believe the average custodian makes that wage. If you do some research, I think your listener is ill-informed about it, or he sees it, like I see, it's almost like a class war. It's like this doesn't merit anything. It's like having Waterford china in your house, Waterford crystal and having bone china, and you're showing all your family, you and your friends, your Waterford crystal and your bone china, and then they need to go to the restroom, and you have no toilet tissue. Which one becomes more important now, the Waterford crystal or the toilet tissue?
Right. And I think, in fairness, a lot of custodians do a great job in terms of taking care of their buildings and their relationships with the rest of the school building, the students and the staff. And, you know, like human nature, there's some that are not so good. And what like we do now with public school teachers, I think there needs to be more aggressive ways of evaluating who's doing their job, who's not, for those that are not, give them a chance to correct. And then there's got to be a system that allows those people to promptly, quickly.
What do you think about that, President of the Union?
100% agree with him. I believe, in my opinion, the taxpayer pays for the very best, and they should be given the very best. And I agree 100% with it.
We got something you guys agree on.
So I think that's a fair comment. And I think ultimately, you know, that this oughtn't be everywhere a race to the bottom. And I mean, this is a city that has had a public policy on things like living wage and other policies, prevailing wage in construction. So we get it and understand it. The question is, where is there a medium here that works? Because the reality, you know, your reality is going to be your job. My reality is the concern of 130,000 people who demand and expect certain things to be done for them, and who are feeling very stressed about taxes right now. You know, foreclosures in the city. When the foreclosure crisis first hit in 2008, it was mostly about rate resets, which is to say, the variable rate went up. It's not anymore. Now it's loss of work is the more common thing. Even though the number of foreclosures is going down, you look at what makes them up. It's a very different.
When you're worried,
it's a very different thing. You know, and I think that's what a lot of families are dealing with now, and that's why they get very apprehensive about taxes, and why they get very apprehensive even about things like stormwater.
So let me ask you. Let me turn around another comment from a reader. This one to the mayor. Noteworthy was the name of the reader who posted this comment. I have mixed feelings on privatization, meaning having a private company come in for the custodians. Writes Noteworthy. The savings are needed, but most of the custodians live in New Haven and add to our economy. Cutting their pay in half will most assuredly decimate their family budgets and probably cost those who own their homes to lose them. Is Noteworthy on the money?
Well, you know, I think it works in yes and no. It's like a politician's answer. We've privatized in negotiation with AFSCME before. Small operations like the golf course. Bigger operations like the sewer plant, the Water Pollution Control Authority, was done, and it made sense because those were clearly very specialized tasks, and there was, I think, for labor saw it that way. Again, I think the issue here remains, where do you find the medium, and it's not just with custodians. Because I will tell you, as much as, let's say, a service that we're not going to privatize, police and fire, the powerful issue there will not be health care. It'll be pensions. It'll be pensions and be a big time. And you know, to your point about equity, it's interesting to look at what Governor Walker in Wisconsin did, which is when he removed pensions and health care from collective bargaining, he did it for non-public safety workers, not for public safety workers.
That supported it.
Well, it's also the unions that enjoy a high degree of public support, and you know.
Do you feel you guys have public support? They have your back?
I feel the majority, do, but yeah, I think this is just a simple case of I'm prepared to tell my bargaining unit we have to pay a toll. I can only pay the toll for our bargaining unit. I cannot pay for everybody else. I agree he has a problem, but I can only give you what I can give you. We don't have the resources to end this problem. That's all we can do.
Yeah, I was listening at the mayor, and just at the arbitration hearing last week, I heard how you mentioned the golf course and the water thing, how your chief operating officer, Will Clark, said that everything was done to make sure no jobs were lost. Those jobs were preserved. This is not what's happening in our negotiation, they're not trying to preserve our job. We're not even guaranteed a job with this new company, even at the $12.50 an hour. They have their choice whether they're going to take us on and give us a position or not. So I'm wondering where the oversight is. What I'm missing here is there something...
Well, in fact, the chief operating officer, if you remember, during that arbitration hearing, was asked the question, what happens to these employees? I never gave it a thought. You never gave our thought, our livelihood, how we feed the family, how we put a roof over our head. After all these years of service, you never even considered us. You never even gave it a thought.
But I think, in the end of the day, the most important thing in the city is seeing that these kids in our public schools, 21,000 of them, have a better chance to succeed in life. I think it's important for violence reduction. I think it's important for wealth creation in the city. I think they are particularly at risk more than anybody by this financial crisis. It is not unique to New Haven. It is happening all over America. And the communities that succeed are going to be those that figure out a way to successfully deal with it.
Correct. Now, on the flip side of that, the kids that aren't going to make it to college, we know a lot of majority of them do not go to college. Because I have, in our ranks, we have many employees that went to home. What do they have when they come out? They don't get to college. Do they have a decent job to come to, some kind of decent wage?
And I think, in point of fact, one of the things that creates jobs in a community is having affordable tax rates and good public schools. And the challenge that I get paid considerably more than you do to manage is to figure out how to balance all these things.
Okay, well, thanks. Oh, you want to final comment?
Flexibility. I'm reading in the paper, you mentioned the layoffs. Were you aware that 6 of those policemen that were laid off were hired by West Haven, so they benefited from the $55,000 that was paid for each one of those policemen to be trained? So that's a loss of money. So maybe we can go back and look at maybe how whether it's really saving money or not. So the town of West Haven got the benefit.
Is this relevant? Is that to do with custodians? Is that...
Well, the thing is,
No,
the Board of Aldermen just the other night tried to pass a resolution and failed, saying rehire the officers. I come back to something. There is no money. There's no money in the budget. It is a problem. And I mean, folks have acknowledged it. And it's something here is got to give. And again, I'll just say, the only way it's going to happen is everybody. That's Dan Malloy's term. And I think it's this idea that, yeah, at some level, and it's not just going to be from city employees, but I mean, the scary and frightening thing down to me in the political dialogue, which these guys are not so much part of the city, is no to everything. Is just no to everything.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks so much for coming to Bru. I know that everybody's trying to wrestle with tough issues and tough times. We're all